Hello everybody, it's Wyvern here with another bit of Total War, Warhammer 2, Quake Magic gameplay. This time around we are on the map Dakharaz, playing as the Tomb Kings against the forces of the Empire. First of all, I do want to apologize for the fact that I haven't really published any videos in a while, outside of that little Pistoliers video. I simply haven't really had the time, been under heavy pressure from school, and haven't really had the time to invest in really kind of putting up a proper game. So, I do hope you guys forgive me, and here is kind of this game. So, over here you can see I did bring good old Ark in the Black, basically the most competitive pick for the Tomb Kings, and of course he is coming in with his usual equipment: Spirit Leech, Fate of Buna, of course, to nuke down powerful units, Liber Mortis for that physical resist that it provides, then Staff of Nagash to improve power recharge rate. I think this is really great and powerful ability, and then finally the Tumulative Archon for that great regeneration and replenishment to all your troops nearby. Now this does affect constructs as well, so it's very tough even for units like these Necropolis Knights with halberds over there. Now the rest of my army, I didn't bring any heroes. For my front line, I do have a mix of Skeleton Spears, Skeleton Warriors, Tomb Guard. You can see on the far flank we do have the King Nakesh's Scorpion Legion. So some anti-large, some kind of chaff infantry just to deal with enemy chaff infantry, and then of course the Tomb Guard here to provide me with an elite center backed by the Kepra Guard. And of course these guys will tear through the lower end Empire troops like Flagellants. They'll tear through Sigmar's Sons and Swordsmen and that sort of stuff. Beyond that, we do have 2 units of Tomb Guard with halberds just to shut down enemy cavalry trying to get into my backline. Of course Empire cavalry is really pretty potent, and if they get on top of your skeleton archers, they will slaughter them very quickly. And as you can see, I do have a very significant shooting contingent here. 4 units of skeleton archers, one of which is the Blessed Legion of Facht. Incredibly powerful unit, of course, with its extra range and armor sundering. And against Empire, this is actually a pretty powerful composition. Normally, Empire with its artillery and its armor-piercing units like Outriders or handguns, they can kind of just advance on you and gun down your Rajapti with impunity, I've found. So skeleton archers are actually decent because they can just slaughter the enemy shooting with massed fire, and they're actually really decent at that. Out on the flanks, we do have 2 units of Necropolis Knights with halberds, 1 on each end, and of course these guys, while losing against Demigryph Knights with halberds in a 1-to-1 situation, they are still a very decent anti-large unit, and they do provide, of course, fear on rear charge. They have poison, and actually a good amount of HP at 5,000. For my opponent, he did decide to go with a very interesting build, and this actually caught me quite a bit off guard. For his lord, he does have Boris Todbringer on foot, coming in with the Midland Runefang, White Cloak of Ulrich, and Crush the Weak. That's actually pretty impressive. This is something you don't see all that often with Empire players who often do. You don't see it too often, Boris on a horse, and I actually think that's a great idea, but it's just caught me by surprise that someone would actually do that. My opponent also does have 2 units of Demigryph Knights with halberds covering his backline. A very interesting front line that's definitely very cheap and chaff heavy, but this is obviously adequate against Tomb Kings who don't have much armor and infantry. A mix of swordsmen, Tattersouls, Flagellants, Sigmar's Sons, so some unbreakable, some breakable, but definitely these guys will hold for a long time and most likely slaughter most of my infantry here. Necropolis Knights already taking cannon fire. You can see my opponent has an interesting shooting line here with 1 Hellblast volley gun as well as a great cannon. This is something that was also interesting, this kind of mix of 2 different artillery pieces, and we'll definitely see how it works out. The Warrior Priest is coming in with the Banner of Eternal Flame, though interestingly enough, no protective spells. And actually, one of the interesting things with with the Warrior Priest, in my opinion, is that if you bring the ability that drops a little AOE bombardment spell, it actually also does provide a 90% magic resist, and this can actually be incredibly potent against Fate of Buna, which obviously I've brought with our good friend Arkin back there. Now you can see I immediately do dive the Necropolis Knights into the ditch, trying to pull these Necropolis Knights off around the flank and get Arkin into the ditch, because I really don't want to be taking fire from the artillery, which is now teeing off on my Skeleton Spears and Skeleton Warriors, where they shouldn't do too well. Finally, my opponent does have a Bright Wizard here with Flaming Sword of Ruin, Power Stone, and then good old Fireball, and of course Kindle Flame, and then 2 units of Spearmen in the back, just screening his backline. So definitely pretty chaff-heavy army for both sides with some elite cavalry. It's actually a pretty solid mirror matchup with just only the shooting and the hero selection being a little different, with me not investing in heroes at all. But you can see the Skeleton Spearmen getting torn up. Unfortunately, this is one of those big problems with Hellblaster volley guns and artillery in general. All 3 of the guns were ended up firing on the fringes here of the Skeleton Spears. They really are not doing too great here. I think my opponent does change his target here, shooting in these skeleton archers, and he'll do some damage, of course, pick off a few models here and there, but it's really not the end of the world. You can see I'm only taking 18 casualties so far. In the meantime, I am hiding my Necropolis Knights down in the ditch, and my archers are starting to tee off on my opponent's troops, and you can see the Tattersouls are not going to be long for this world under the sustained barrage of archery. Obviously, the debuffs from the Plus Legion are useless against these guys, but it's just simply the sheer volley fire. You can see they're already down 20 models, taking huge damage there, and I do hit the Demigryph Knights with a Fate of Buna, though. This is one of the big problems, actually, when dealing with the Empire and their Demigryph Knights, is that they are not actually pretty survivable against something like Fate of Buna, just because they have so few models. And they do actually get a full charge here on my Acropolis Knights. I was too busy microing elsewhere, and that is going to be a big problem for me, since this engagement starts very poorly for me. In the meantime, though, Archon is going to pull in. You can see the Necropolis Knights doing a decent job. They will obviously hold their own a little bit, and I do cast Liber Mortis just to give them a little extra survivability. It's not going to last for very long, as Boris is coming around, and I really don't want to have to fight him. Over here, you can see the frontline fight going very well. My archers overextending a little bit, but the Tattershoals slowly but surely kind of falling apart. And my archers do start firing away at these Hellblaster volley guns. And one of those things I don't think people realize is that archery and handgun fire will actually will often put the guns out of commission relatively quickly. It's one of those things you can do if you bring handguns against the faction. You can often just focus the artillery pieces once you're in range and kill them quickly. You can see here that already does route. And in the meantime, on the flank, we do have the Necropolis Knights and Tomb Guard with halberds kind of circling around the flank. Over here, the Flagellants are still holding their own, but the Kepler Tomb Guard will do great against these guys. They should slice and dice their way through them. Another heal going down, and over here in the pits, the Tomb Guard with Archon's help are dealing with the Flagellants, so you can see the Demigryph Knights with halberds kind of pushing around and going to be a big nuisance. And over here, of course, the Tattershoals have managed to push through and get on top of my Skeleton Archers, so I'm going to start losing these troops very, very quickly. I do summon these these are Shopti and immediately start pulling away. I don't want to be dealing with those spearmen. I do get hit by a fireball there, but I will be able to get them on top of the Tattershoals and start slaughtering them. In the meantime, another Fate of Buna going down on the Demigryph Knights, just trying to melt them down and trying to keep Archon alive here with the Tomb Blade of Archon, providing that fire damage as well as the heals for all these guys. Of course, you can see their melee attack just being nuked down by Boris so much, because Boris has those great debuffs. But unfortunately for my opponent, these Demigryph Knights with halberds really suffer here and fall apart. In the meantime, on the flank, though, the Demigryph Knights have gotten caught a little bit by these halberdiers, and they're really kind of getting mauled. They do lose 10 models and are being forced to scram. Over here, the Necropolis Knights with halberds are being pulled back, but really these halberds have taken a massive beating. In the front, the King Nikesh's Legion trading pretty effectively with Scorpions. You can see with Spearmen. Actually, never mind, it's not Spearmen, Swordsmen. And over here you can see the archers, despite being nuked down a bit by artillery, are just kind of pounding away at these spearmen. The Tattershoals are starting to fall apart, and with the help of the Ushapti, really, this area should, and of course the Liber Mortis, this area should hold just fine. Here in the course, or in the center of things, Tomb Guard is going to lose to the Sigmar Sons with the help of the Warrior Priest, but that's really to be expected, and that's pretty much okay. Over here, Skeleton Warriors are going to collapse on these Swordsmen, and once they break, things will go very well. These guys should just get slaughtered in the pits there. In the meantime, over here, the Necropolis Knights with halberds coming back for another go. The Flagellants are getting slaughtered. Unfortunately, I didn't pull the archers away, and I really should have, just to keep that fire going. Over here, Archon the Black providing some support. And you can see the archers now are able to start teeing off on these swordsmen, on these Flagellants, and really provide these Tomb Guard with halberds with the support they need to drag my opponent's troops into the muck. Over here, the Shopti are shortly going to start falling apart. They simply don't have the HP for it anymore. They're just going to start losing models, and it's going to be over for them, but not before they deal with most of the rest of these Tattershoals. Over here, the Necropolis Knights do rout off the rest of these Spearmen, and with that, my opponent's army is definitely in a bad spot, except for these Demigryph Knights and the Great Cannons. Because obviously my opponent has lost his Hellblaster Volley Gun, and the crew's actually been routed off somewhere. I'm not entirely sure where. But here in the pits, Archon holding an oak, and of course Archon has decent melee defense at 50, so he's able to kind of hold his own against Boris. And Boris now dropping, with thanks to Spirit Leech. You can see the archery fire still coming in, despite the fact that the Demigryphs are on top of me. And you can see the lone Tattershoal here wandering away, but I'm sending in Archon to try to help against these Demigryphs, and I do get that lovely cast off of Liber Mortis, just trying to keep these guys alive and well, and plowing into these Demigryph Knights to just get some damage in. Archon's not the best melee combatant, but every little bit helps here, and it's really, really necessary to try to keep these guys alive. Another Fireball going in, doing some great damage against the Kepler Guard and against the Tomb Guard, but obviously they will start stripping away at this Warrior Priest, pulling him into the gut and the dirt. While on the other flank, you can see King Nikesh's Legion slinging out with the Spearmen. And here in the backline, the Necropolis Knights actually get caught by the Fire Wizard, and they are actually getting beaten down pretty heavily, which was definitely not something I expected. But we do get the Great Cannon offline, at least for a little bit, and that's going to be a big boon. Meantime, these Demigryphs still being a nuisance. You can see my Spearmen, or my archers there, route, leaving only this Blessed Legion of Fox that's still online. The Tomb Guard's struggling, but slowly but surely chipping away at these Flagellants. They should probably win that fight eventually, although it will definitely take them a while. And you can see they've actually played the smackdown of Boris pretty well. Over here, these Demigryph Knights dropping down to 12 models, getting really low. Though obviously, I'm taking some hefty beating on these Blessed Legion of Fox. And if the Demigryphs decide to turn on Arcan's going to be in a very bad spot there with the way he is, HP wise. In the meantime, over here you can see the Necropolis Knights pursuing, and then I decided to disengage them, simply not wanting to fight the Sprite Wizard. And so just kind of sneaking past him, letting the Spearmen here, the Blessed Legions, keep slugging it out with the Spearmen, and trying to get back to Boris back to Arcan and support him. Over here, the Tomb Guard are finally falling, actually losing thanks to Boris' intervention. They actually lose to the Flagellants there. Definitely a bit of a problem. You see the Demigryph Knights there, very low on HP, and definitely things are not looking great. Despite the Blessed Legion of Fox getting pretty badly mauled, you can see Arcan is still in the pits there, laying the smackdown on these Demigryph Knights, who are down to 11 models, and now we are pulling back the Necropolis Knights, and really what I'm trying to do here is clump up so that I can get a good Tomb Blade of Arcan off and heal off this whole blob of infantry. Obviously, King Nikesh's Legion not too great on the other flank, but they simply need to hold. That's really all we're expecting. Seeing that my opponent is kind of pulling away, I do decide I initially intended to support this flank, but then seeing this mob of Demigryphs coming in, we do turn around with Arcan, and we do commit our Necropolis, and as you can see them charging in here, their snake-like tails, just the snake tails wriggling, and we do get a nice little Tomb Blade of Arcan here, and that's going to be healing my troops. It's going to be healing the Necropolis Knights. It's going to be healing of course, Arcan and the archers. And the greatest thing here is that with that poison, we're going to be able to stop these Demigryph Knights from escaping. We're going to be able to run them down and get rid of them. Just rout them, break them, and then shadow them off the field. Over in the pits, you can see the Kepra Guard are pushing in, trying to get a flank on these spearmen to support their brothers here from the King Nikesh's Legion. But my opponent does get a little bit of flank here with the swordsmen, but the Kepra Guard is just so very powerful in melee. 36 melee attack, they have regen, still nowhere near their regen cap. And of course 47 weapon strength means that against these lightly armored swordsmen they will absolutely bludgeon them to death. And my opponent is really kind of low on troops capable of doing much here. Great Cannon is coming back online. At the same time though, the Blessed Legion of Fox here repositioning. You can see the swordsmen falling apart. The Kepra Guard who's at 100 kills right now. And they'll just be able to mow down all these troops. Unfortunately, definitely the Warrior Priest here with the fire damage is going to be absolutely brutal against these Kepra Guard with low armor and relatively low melee defense. Of course, they're regen, but they do manage to surround and lay the smackdown on the Warrior Priest with his terrible defenses, and he's being shredded. You can see also the Blessed Legion sniping away at the Great Cannon here, whittling it down. We are getting rid of these swords, and this still a very healthy unit of Tomb Guard with halberds should really be able to help us out here. My opponent still does have a unit of Demigryphs here, really low on leadership, but the problem is that if he tries to pull them back, they will simply rout. Over here, Arcan is kind of moving around the flanks, trying to move in with the Necropolis Knights. You can see they've actually healed a bunch, and they've gotten their model back there. So they're definitely in a much better position than before. They do dive in on these swordsmen, slaughtering them a bit. You can see the archers keep teeing off a little bit. They are on their last shot of ammo, or last round of ammo. So we are going to get a little bit more fire in, trying to whittle down that Bright Wizard a little bit before the Kepra Guard does push into the flank here after these spearmen and start slicing and dicing their way through them. Once these spearmen are gone, really, my opponent's army is basically just Boris, relatively low on HP, and then the Bright Wizard. And you can see we are hitting Boris here with Spirit Leech. Boris is actually going to drag into the muck here pretty quickly by the poison damage from the Necropolis Knights and all that sort of stuff. You can see I do dive in with Arcan. Arcan, of course, once again, not being the worst melee combatant. He's definitely lower on the tier and capability than Boris, but not terribly so, especially when he's a lot of HP advantage. You can see the Tomb Guard diving in here to provide some support, and even the Blessed Legion of Fox at this point out of ammo, all pushing in to surround and massacre these last Empire remnants. And really, we're going to throw things to fast forward here as we spend 20 seconds basically just clubbing down the last survivors there. And so definitely a bit of a rough game. It actually caught me by surprise because my opponent's army was something you don't always see that much. The weird investment in artillery definitely caught me off guard a bit, and that infantry corps proved to be incredibly brutal against my own infantry. As you can see, the Tomb Guard got massacred pretty effectively. The one unit of Tomb Guard with halberds didn't get too much done. The King Nikesh's Legion did great, but the remaining skeleton troops kind of didn't do too good. The archers definitely got wailed on. I wasn't good about microing my Necropolis Knights, and I ended up losing a unit, largely thanks to the fact that I didn't get their charge bonus off, and took a full charge to the face from the Demigryph Knights. Had I been more on top of that with Arcan, I would have really been able to do better there. You can see the Hellblaster Volley Gun doing pretty good there, as well as the Great Cannon for my opponent. Picking off entire models, of course, on Necropolis Knights can be very, very brutal. And otherwise, for my opponent's army, definitely not a bad build. Definitely that fire damage was huge for this sort of cheap chaff infantry front line. He did have the tools to deal with monsters if I brought him. He did have the tools to deal with my mobs of infantry, so that's definitely an interesting build. But very cool to see Boris on a foot. You do tend to see him on a Griffin. Or nowadays, of course, Balthazar Gelt is a popular pick simply because of the cheese with Double Witch Hunter and Plague of not Plague of Rose and Final Transmutation, but nonetheless, great. Pretty cool build. I do think the Warrior Priest was a little bit of a waste. If I had one critique really of this composition, I think it's, well, two critiques really, is the Hellblaster Volley Gun and the Warrior Priest are basically unnecessary, especially if you're not investing in the magic denial for the Warrior Priest, which can make sense. Honestly, Arkan is a really common pick with Empire, so if you want to bring a Warrior Priest just to ride along with your cavalry and provide a protective area for your cavalry, it can be a cool, actually, mechanic. You can definitely take advantage of that. But without it, he's a little lackluster. He does provide that fire damage, but otherwise not too great. The Hellblaster Volley Gun I also think is kind of overpriced. It's still kind of a trash unit for what it does. Better off bringing a cannon and an extra unit of infantry. But nonetheless, great game to my opponent, Donald Trump here. Just a fun name there, but definitely great game. Came right down to the wire. Was a lot of fun. Could have gone either way, so I definitely lots of fun there. I do hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to leave a like and subscribe down below. If you have any comments and criticisms, be sure to post them down so I can respond as soon as I can. As usual, guys, I do appreciate you all for watching, and I will respond. And I'll see you all in the next one. Bye for now.